What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious along with Justin Total Package and Craig the British Bulldog, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, best wrestling heel turns. For audio fans, give us a listen to Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast, and on social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. This should be fun. There's a lot of great heel turns out there. I don't know.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad.
The greatest. This is the greatest wrestling heel turns. Obviously, part one. There's been so many wrestling heel turns where you've had a face and they turn heel, and you're like, oh. And the criteria is it could change wrestling. It could just be something that sticks out in your mind. You're like, that was really good, or something that definitely changed the flow of whatever promotion they were in. That's my criteria. So yeah, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, a ton of low-hanging fruit. I mean, I can name like fucking 10 off right now if I want to. But if you guys want to choose them, great. We're not going to say there's no restrictions. We're not going to disqualify anything, even though there's one particular one that I know everyone could choose. Maybe two. But yeah, we're just going to go and see what you guys do.
How about if I start with one that I know is not low-hanging, but I still thought
you.
it was,
Okay, go ahead.
It was cool and fun, and
No.
I mean, some people might have predicted it, but I don't think so. I'm gonna go. This is 2011, and he's a great podcaster now, and he's
Pardon-moi?
Oh, pardon moi. I'm gonna go with the Mark Henry heel turn.
God damn it, Dave, you fucking bitch.
Oh, is it on your list?
Yeah.
That was my first one. That was my first one.
So you're done.
No, shut up. No, it's
So
not.
you're just
Salmon
You're
jacket.
lying.
fucking goddamn it, salmon jacket. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was very well done.
Stupid
I thought
bitch.
that it was a situation where Mark Henry couldn't do any more, and I thought the retirement was absolutely real at this point. I'm like, oh,
He cried real tears. They weren't crocodile tears. They were fucking real teals. They were real tears. And he had his fucking salmon jacket on, his fucking members only jacket, and he went out there.
I thought you guys were all going to go way more low hanging than that.
He got us hook, line, and sinker, man. I've never felt so duped before.
He started crying, legit tears, like actor level, like Oscar actor level tears.
Yeah.
Performance.
Yeah, he did.
And he went out there and cried, and then Cena comes out. When Cena came out, I was like, I smell wrestling. And then but I still didn't know. I still didn't know because you could have just thought Cena, who's a locker room leader and all that stuff, was coming out to say goodbye to a guy. Yeah, seeing him off. And nope, fucking Henry turned on him and fucking started to feud with him, and it was fucking awesome. That's a good one. I'll jump in second here. That's a good one, Dave. I'm going to go old school. And I started watching wrestling in 87, 88, and so I had to go back a year or two and watch this or whatever, because I was like, how did this guy turn heel? And he had turned heel a couple times, but it was Paul Orndorff turning on Hulk Hogan in 1986.
Oh.
I posted that recently. We did a Mount Rushmore episode of greatest to never win a world heavyweight title, and Orndorff was on it, and that's the clip I chose to advertise with. And they were in a tag match, and you kind of saw it happening. In wrestling, everything is telegraphed, except for what Dave said. That was a pretty good surprise. But a lot of heel turns are telegraphed. You kind of saw it coming. But it was a tag match, Hulk and Orndorff against Studd and Bundy. And the match ended in a disqualification or something like that or whatever. And then Orndorff gets in there and gathers Hogan, and they had been having dissension kind of before that. So you saw it coming, but you're like, is it going to be that obvious? And wrestling, the beautiful thing about wrestling is you can see the seeds planted and know what's going to happen. And then when it happens, you're still like, oh, I didn't see that coming, even though you saw it coming a mile away. And that's what this was. And then he picked Hulk up and he raised Hogan's hand. He's like, you and me, man, you and me. And he clotheslined the shit out of Hulk. And people, and Bruno and Vince were like, why?
Beautiful.
Why are you doing this? Why? And it's the commentary back here too. That's a lost art form, right? I mean, I like some of the commentary now, but the commentary back in the 80s and 90s was fucking spot. They believed in the product and they pushed the product. And they were just so shocked. And then he picked Hulk up and he fucking pile drove a 300-pound Hulk Hogan. And fucking Hogan felt like a sack of shit. And it was the biggest thing, and he did his hand to his ear, and then he hired Bobby Heenan the next week.
That's right.
He hired Bobby Heenan the next week as his manager, and then they went on, by the way, let me just say, to have the highest grossing heavyweight
House
championship program in the history of pro wrestling. And the entire year in '86 that they were like fighting together, they sold house shows out. They made more money. We talked about the exhibition stadium in Toronto, Canada, where they put 60 to 70,000 people for a house show in Canada, for a house show for Hogan against Orndorff. And Orndorff was getting like 30-40% cheers a lot too. Like people loved him. Craig mentioned on a past episode the steel cage where they dropped at the same time. That was Saturday night's main event, and they set a ratings record for that night. Like they just, and that was right before Andre turned on Hulk to go into WrestleMania 3. So all this kind of like lined up, and it was just beautiful. Like it was one of my favorite. I'll never forget that clothesline, and then Vince going, "Oh no!" And
oh no!
San Martino was like, "Why does Orndorff do this? Why is Orndorff like?" So yeah, it was really good. So that's my choice is Orndorff turning.
The only thing I want to confirm, Jess, did Hogan convulse when he got pile drived on the canvas?
He did.
Holds his hand up high for victory. They'll win this matchup, but nonetheless. Oh no! What in the world? What in the heck was that all about? You gotta be. No! 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 What in the world is wrong with Orndorff? He's waving Stone in. He's waving Bundy in. Heenan coming in. They're going to finish off the... No, wait a minute. Rotundo, Spivey, Tonga, Murphy.
So, yep.
And I props also to Orndorff. Like that's where he got his tricep injury and just worked right through it. And that's why he has he always had a bad left arm or whatever because he just worked through it.
He could not. Yeah, back in the day, if you left that main event spot, you didn't get it back. So it's like,
and he was never up to build that arm up again. It was always.
And him and Hogan at the time, I mean,
forever.
Yeah, they made the biggest money for any main event program in pro wrestling history in 1986. Right. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
And then he bought bowling alleys.
Top that, Craig. Top those.
I'm going to jump ahead to 2014. And while these guys had already feuded and had hundreds of matches, this is another one that totally got me. And another one where these guys kind of popped me for the first time. And I'm talking NXT, Kevin Owens on Sami Zayn.
Yes.
After Sami won the title.
When Kevin showed up.
And he powerbombed him on the apron.
The first time, now you see that every week, but that's the first time. Well, I'm sure we'd seen it before, but that was one of the first times.
Sammy won the NXT title that night, right?
Live. Right.
Yeah. Sammy finally won the NXT, and Kevin came down to celebrate with them and turned on him. Yes, yeah.
And did that power bomb on that ring. It was brutal.
Was that Kevin's debut though? Like, we didn't know.
No, he'd been there for a while. He'd been there for a bit, like not a bit, but he'd already debuted. And it's funny thing is, as we're recording this, we are one day away from watching him and Sami Zayn face at Elimination Chamber 2025.
They've done this like 10 times, right? I mean,
they only have two things left. They have this probably in Toronto with they wanted to do a main event, or not main event, but as part of it, and then probably main event WrestleMania at some point, singles match together.
Yeah,
like main event, like that's the early dream. They've done this 1,000 times. It's going to be fantastic. They just beat the shit out of each other.
Someone joked about like how they're watching each other's families from a distance, like they're at their house and stuff on the videos. And they're just going inside and hanging out and playing Chutes and Ladders after with their kids. All hanging out. Like because they're best friends, but like they create some legitimate heat. But still wonderful. I'm like, we're gonna have so
that
much
ends
fun
round one, right? So round two.
One moment, Craig. Can you rate 6 months to a year? Do I want to do
low-hanging fruit? Do I not? I will not. I'm going to do Super Brawl 8 in 1998. Scott Steiner turns on Rick. And the only reason why I choose this one is because you did see kind of the seeds planted before. Like Scott Steiner came back from an injury and he started wearing the weight belt. Remember that? And then he started like growing his hair a little bit, and he started doing arrogant shit. And when he feuded with Buff Bagwell, he'd point at Bagwell across the ring and flash a double bicep, and Bagwell would be like, "Yeah, you think so?" And he'd flash back, and like they were doing that like weeks before, where Scott was sort of like, and then Scott would tag in, and then he would finish the match himself and never tag Rick to pin. And he would get the pin on himself, and Rick would look, Rick would look at him like, "Why didn't you tag me?" He's like, "I got this. I'm the best," or whatever. But you thought maybe that they both would turn heel or something like that. They would turn on DiBiase because DiBiase was their manager at the time. And so you thought that, but then at Super Bowl, they did their classic thing where they cleared the ring of the outsiders. And then, Rick would run around the ring and get between Scott's legs and they would do the whole Steiner pose. And then Scott looked outside at the NWO and clubbed him. And then you watch the crowd, it was like a 1,000, 2,000, like an implosion. And then everyone's like, oh, like everyone stood up like this actually happened. Like until you actually see like two brothers turn on each other, you might see it coming or think you see it coming. And that's what they're doing. But when it happened, like I was like, oh shit, like this is kind of cool. Now, WCW obviously fucked the feud up. Of course they did.
Yeah, right.
But this moment here, this heel turn of Scott Steiner, and afterwards he became Superstar Scott Steiner, and then he became Big Papa Pump. Like so, this started Scott Steiner's transition into heel and singles wrestling.
I say to that power bomb question, yes. Oh, what did I just see? He double axed on his own brother. What in the world did I just see? You gotta be kidding!
I knew there was something wrong. I could smell it.
He's no way. Scott Hall. This is beyond cover. Oh, he hit DiBiase. DiBiase. Scott Steiner has snapped.
Can you imagine the Steiner's family at home watching this? Can you imagine this?
Dusty Rhodes just posted DiBiase into the steel. My God, what just happened? Look at this. Oh, there's a new WO, but this is lower than ever before.
And he finally, because for years before, Vince wanted to turn them against each other in WWF in 93, 94. And they were like, nope, we're a tag team. We're the Steiner brothers. We will not turn on each other. And so for a long time, and even at the end before he went to WWF in 92, Scott Steiner broke on his own and started to turn heel and beat Ricky Steamboat for the television championship. And then they decided to not resign and go to WWF, and it was just stripped from Scott Steiner. Like it was just like an abrupt thing.
Wow.
So they kind of started to turn to heel Steiner and Scott in WCW 92, but they didn't because the Steiner brothers were like, we don't want to face each other because every promoter was like, you got to fight your brother. And they're like, nope.
Yeah.
And so like, that's why. So finally in 98, for some odd reason in the whole Monday Night War era,
they finally did it.
They finally did it. Yeah. And that's my pick for beginning of round 2.
That's lovely. And,
I'll jump off of that and I'll do the low hanging fruit. But similarly, is the Owen turn on Brett from '94.
Oh, I love it.
Another classic that you kind of saw coming, but you're just like, but
Yes.
you didn't at the same time.
Yes.
You actually, no, I take it back. You kind of didn't.
No, you did. You did. The promos.
You didn't know
You're
what was
right, because
happening.
at Survivor Series, he pulled Brett off the rope and then started. You're right. Yeah, you did see it coming. Yeah.
But not even that. He would double talk Brett in the promos. He's like, "Well, I'm good, but we're good together."
Yeah.
Even when Brett was like, "We're gonna do this as a team," he's like, "Yeah, but I'm still the guy." Like Owen would say things, and you're like, "Ooh, it's coming. It's coming."
And even back then, it was like you believed Brett when he's like, "I will under no circumstances fight my brother."
Even though that's wrestling
ever.
telegraph for he's going to,
Yeah.
but you did, but you believed it. You're 100%
Yeah.
right. You're 100% right.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And it's like Owen, like it was just his breaking out moment, and then he just that feud and those matches in '94 plus just.
And we got the gift of kicked your leg out of your leg. The kicked your leg out of your leg. We got.
Oh, I love it's so funny. I
And to
don't
think
it's that
that-
low hanging, but it's really good. It's
But they were
it's a hidden
awesome.
gem.
They
Craig.
carried
Don't
the
forget.
promotion. Brett and Owen faced each
Yeah.
other for the summer of '94.
yeah.
We saw an
And I
Iron Man
think-
match in fucking the pond with them.
Wasn't it supposed to be
Right.
fucking? Wasn't it supposed to be like Bruce or
It was supposed
one
to
of
be
the
Bruce.
shittier
Yeah,
brothers?
Bruce wanted to do that. But then Brett
I'm
went to Vince
glad
and said, I love the storyline, but I think Owen should do it. Yeah. That's a good point.
That's
Thank
right.
God.
That's right. Because they said that his other brother, was it oh gosh, who was it that promoted the idea?
It's Bruce.
Kyle.
Yeah, Bruce.
Kyle Hart.
It was
Kyle Hart is Bruce.
Bruce Hart. Okay. And he's like, yeah, it sounds good, but I think Owen should be the guy to do it. It was like, yeah, we're gonna talk about you heel turned your own brother in real life, and then to have your own brother heel turn on you.
So that's my next choice is Brett turning against Bruce. I'm just kidding.
right.
Stampede Wrestling '87.
Craig, I don't think that's low hanging fruit. I think that what I'm going to tell you is the ultimate low hanging fruit. Seth Rollins betrays the Shield with a chair shot.
So that was one of there was 3 things that I considered low hanging fruit, and that was one of them.
Yeah, it's super low. But I have to bring it up, and I have to bring it up because of what it. Oh my gosh, the story carries on 10 years when you really think about it. So when Seth hits Roman with a chair and goes heel, there's a number of things that happen after that. Obviously, Seth is now a corporate Seth. He's siding with.
Well, and they
Triple
all
H
three start their singles thing. Even Ambrose, when he was there, started his own singles journey. They all started their own. Yeah.
Even though they weren't, him and Roman weren't technically, at odds with each other. They all went singles, and then after that, Seth cashes in Money in the Bank on top of that and beats Roman and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania in that heel turn sense. That's huge. And then when you even fast forward that another 9 years, Roman cannot get over the fact that Seth had beef with him and hits Seth with the chair in Philadelphia that causes Cody to win the title and dethrone Roman after almost 4 years of holding the title as a heel himself.
Last night was plan A. Tonight, plan B. There's always a plan B.
Oh my God! What? Just happened. Are you kidding me? Rollins down. He's assaulting Ambrose. Rollins assaulting Ambrose after he took out Reigns. What is going on here?
That is the ultimate heel story when you look at it over the years. Seth Rollins' heel turn is one of the most elaborate stories told. Even when he rectified and changed his ways, he still had to pay for it. And he knew he had to pay for it directly from Roman in order for someone else to finally dethrone the heel of Roman Reigns. He had to sacrifice himself. That's how awful his heel turn was to the Shield and to wrestling and to churn on corporate America. He even brought it up against the segment against Cody, saying, "I just don't want you to go down the path that I went."
Yeah, and I think with today's wrestling storyline tellers, I think that might be like one of the best heel turns ever. Even overshadowing the one that we're all thinking of, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, we're all thinking of it.
I'm not going to say it. So my third round pick to start round 3 is...
Oh my God.
I'm just going to say this because it's not low-hanging fruit, and some people may forget it, but we actually copied it in OWF. So, and I'm going to talk about Ric Flair turning on Sting in Halloween Havoc 95.
Yes, that's lovely. I forgot.
Even though we fucking knew it, like when they did the whole thing, Flair and Sting had been feuding forever since 1988, and Flair's the Ric Flair character is a piece of shit. Maybe the real life guy is too, but anyway, that's not for debate. So it was the whole thing where they did it. They built him up, and Flair's like, "I need a partner. Anderson and Pillman are fighting me," because Flair and Anderson were feuding. And he's like, "Anderson and Pillman are facing against me or whatever. Sting, I need you." Sting's like, "We've always not gotten along. We've always feuded. I cannot be your partner." And he's like, "Please." So for weeks, he was like, "Please, Sting. I will never betray you." And Sting looked at him and said, "If you betray me, I will kill you dead. Like, I'm just telling you right now." And he's like, "I understand." He's like, "I'm different. It's you and me, man. It's you and me against Anderson." They jumped Flair like before the match, so that way Sting came out all by himself. So it was Sting against Anderson and Pillman the whole match. Then Flair runs out with tape around his ribs, and he's acting all hurt or whatever, and he gets on the apron. He's like, "Please tag me, Sting, please." And they do a whole thing. They beat Sting down for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then Sting finally tags him, and Flair gets in there, and he points at Anderson and punches Sting right in the fucking face. And the whole crowd... The whole crowd erupted in a stale 1995 WCW and WWF, by the way, where American wrestling was really shitty. I remember this turn, and I smile. And Craig and I copied it for our OWF feud that we did in our own promotion, where it was like I
got to be a small part of that too.
Yes,
Nathan got to be.
You guys were the Blade Runners, and
yeah, it was fun.
And I will never forget it. And it's my third round entry because I'll never forget it because I adopted it for feud or whatever, and it's one of my favorite memories. It's one of my favorite Flair turns, because even though you saw it coming, you're like, I have to see this because it's going to be great. And when he punched Sting, you're like, there it is.
It was so right away. He didn't even do a move or anything. He just kind of points and then
bounced off the tag. Yeah, he got the
tag.
tag. Sting finally tagged him, and he bounced off the ropes like Flair does to do the strut, and he punched Sting right in the face. And it was just the whole crowd popped. Like everybody was like, "Of course he's gonna punch Sting in the face." And then Anderson, Pillman, and Flair beat the shit out of Sting, and it was just like, dude, fuck, like what if, of course he did. Of course Flair did. So it was just one of the best moments. I love it. It's one of my favorite. So that's my round 3.
He's up. Here we go. He's up. He made the tag. Ric Flair. Oh my. What the hell? He hit Sting. It was a plan. It was set up. Oh, let's sit back and watch this. And look at Sting. Sting is. He said if Flair double-crossed him, he'd be a dead man. That's what he said if Flair double-crossed him. Sting is fighting for all he's worth. I've never seen Sting like this. I've never seen any action like this. But he is being triple teamed by the 30th player. No, Shivani.
Oh my God. I don't even know, Craig, maybe I'll have you send us home. I have an odd one because this is not a heel turn in the realm of kayfabe, but a lot of people consider this as a heel turn because of how shitty it was to the person who thought they were going to go over and eventually be able to leave and maybe give it the title later. But a lot of people consider Shawn Michaels and the Montreal Screwjob as a heel turn, but like a straight
it's a more heel turn for Vince, really.
True. I mean, there's part of that too. But Shawn carries a lot of that burden and weight because he has to go with it and he can't tell anybody about it. And he has to keep it to himself for over a decade.
Whatever. Don't defend him.
I'm not trying to defend him, but a lot of people would say fuck that guy.
He knew right what he was doing.
Right. This is what just get mad. Churn to your anger. Just churn to it. This is what the Sith does.
This was who Shawn was, and he was good for
the
leader of the company. Whoever he heard it from, Jim Cornette, Triple H, Vince Russo, whoever he heard it from, the owner of the company turned heel on this night. This really was the birth of Mr. McMahon. And or the real life Vince, because he'd always been the guy behind crushing talent's dreams and saying no or yes or whatever.
Sure.
And then now he finally got to be a character. And Shawn was already a heel with DX here. And Shawn is a piece of shit. And so Shawn went and he plays the victim. To this day, he's like, I just do it. And that's his whole thing. I'm like, no, motherfucker. You're an evil asshole and you loved it. Just say it. Just say.
He probably came up with it.
Yeah, when Vince came up to me and he said, "Well, Triple H said he came up with it," and then of course Cornette said he did, and Russo said he did. So they all did, but Triple H said I was on the phone call. It was me, Shawn, and Vince, and I just said, "What if we just take it off him?" And they paused for a minute, and Vince is like, "Are you guys willing to go along with it?" And they're like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I'll take care of it," and that was the end of their call. So. They all knew.
So, I'm sorry. Say that one more time. It was Vince, Trips, and Shawn.
Yeah, and Shawn on a call. But also, Jim Cornette said in a separate conversation, he was sick and tired of Vince for the whole couple weeks leading to the pay-per-view. Vince was stressed about what am I supposed to do? Brett doesn't want to lose. And Cornette was tired of it. And he goes, "Oh, motherfucker, if you're just so tired of it, just fucking take it off him the hard way." And that's when Vince is like, duly noted. And then Russo on his account is like, I said the same thing. I said, dude, if he's not going to play business, just take it off him. If you know what I'm saying. The match can end however you want it, basically.
I don't believe Russo.
So there's a lot of, Vince, he's a piece of shit liar anyway. So, I do believe that Hunter probably said that in a close call, and then Cornette said that as well. I believe that maybe Vince heard it from Cornette, and then when he had the conference call with Shawn and Triple H, was like, yeah.
Cornette is solidified
in other words,
industry. He has
I believe that more than one person had to offer that up to Vince before Vince saying, because Vince is a smart businessman, right? You don't just take the first offer, you take multiple. And then whoever's on whatever side, you go, that seems to be the way we should go. And so when Vince heard a couple different people saying, why don't you just, quote unquote, take it off him? Then Vince is like, that's what we're going to do. So Vince heard a couple people say, just fuck Brett, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's it's a very controversial offering, Dave, for sure.
Right. Who's the heel? Who's the heel in that story?
The Vince or is it Sean? We all know Sean's a piece of shit.
Or is it both?
Yeah. Craig, you're right. You ended up, Craig, in this episode.
Yeah, I'll it's funny because you mentioned the feud before with Orndorff and Hogan, and I think my quintessential kind of like heel turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andre.
He was on my list.
Turning on Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, in order to pack Pontiac Silverdome, I mean, they had to make everyone forget about the history of Andre the Giant, pretend they'd been friends for 15 years, that he hadn't been pinned in 15 years, and turn a guy who's terrible. Yeah, terrible on a promo. Didn't move very well anyway, and have him a credible turn. So, little crucifix, little Bobby Heenan, little jealousy, and just like the best feuds, like you can almost see the point of the heel. You're like, well, yeah, he kind of does overshadow, like blah blah. Even like Brett and Owen, it's like I don't blame fucking Owen really for like Brett stuff. There's a lot of truth makes it so good. Sure. And the thing with Andre. Perfect way to sell WrestleMania 3.
And it was on the Piper's Pit, and it was the whole classic thing where he ripped the shirt off Hogan and accidentally grabbed the crucifix and with his thumbnail. Hogan said he didn't cut his thumbnail, so it cut my chest and it bled. And the Piper's like, "You're bleeding, bad." Like, and so it was a whole thing. And to your point too, Craig, in a micro vacuum or cosm.
That moment, by the way.
In a microcosm, it was Piper going into business for himself, but in a good way. Like, he didn't steal the moment of what just happened, but he's like, come on, man.
Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm here for one reason, to challenge you for a world championship match in the WrestleMania. Andre, please, no, it's not happening, man. We're friends, Andre, please.
You can't believe it? Maybe you'll believe this, Hogan.
Andre, what are you doing, man? You can't leave like this, man. What are you doing, Andre? You can't cross the shirt. What's wrong with him, man? You can't leave like this. You're bleeding. It's not how. Andre, come back, man. You don't have to leave like this.
Your epidermis is cut, man, and you're bleeding of the fluid.
Your epidermis.
But also, too, like I've often thought as well, as far as Vince and Patterson, this really, if you go back to this, and Craig, you hit on it perfect. Andre was done. And even after his back surgery, they had it late 86, he was not, the back surgery didn't work because he was so heavy. Right. And Andre wasn't going to change his diet. He wasn't going to do anything. And he still had that pituitary gland. Did I say that right? Like that was on his spine, which was causing more like growth hormones to be put in his body. Right. So like, and Andre didn't want to have the surgery because at the time the surgery was kind of like controversial. Like nobody knew if it would really work. But he wanted to have his back fixed, like his spine injury. So like he got that done or whatever. And they knew he was going downhill. For Vince and Patterson, but Vince as well, to be able to go to Andre and be like, we got to go heel, man. Like you're not healthy enough to be the face anymore that we want. Cause faces gotta, even if they're a good guy, like faces gotta move fast and kind of be quick. And Andre was in so much pain even after the surgery that he couldn't be that guy anymore. He couldn't be a face. And then you had Hogan, who was just basically carrying Vince into the national level. And he was stealing the show and he was pulling the ratings in and the sellouts and all that stuff. And for Vince to be able to go to Andre and be like, you gotta turn heel, bro. Like, and for Andre to understand that, like, this is the end for me. Like, even if my heel turn lasts 3 or 4 years, which it did, like I'm done. Like Andre,
he was a tag champ after that too.
And Andre knew he was dying. Like at that point, like I mean, he was only going to get worse. He wasn't changing his diet. He was drinking heavily, and like he was just gaining weight. And after that surgery, that's when Andre wasn't dieting after a surgery, bro. He was fucking pounding whatever he could, and so it's like for Vince, I give Vince a lot of credit back here. This is when Vince was sharp as shit, right? Like he was just like, you got to turn heel. You got to put my guy over. And they talked Andre in.
You can play long-term storytelling here. There's no social media to worry about. There's no, having to fool the internet audience. You could keep it secret. Vince had a lock on this. So
this was on my list, and I talked passionately about it because, like Craig said, I watched wrestling after like this happened, but then the immediate videotapes that I rented a year before was WrestleMania 3 and all this stuff, and I learned about the turn and all that stuff, and it was like, as a kid, it was like, oh, what? Like Andre was a beloved hero, and he what?
Oh
like,
yeah,
and
he'd been slammed multiple times.
It's one of the best, and again, arguably that storyline led into everything with Macho Man and the Mega Powers, and it just kept going for like 3 years. Vince was like, I got you guys for 3 years. Like we were, that was like, we joined at the peak of pro wrestling. Like we still kind of value the Andre turn and like the Hogan turn. It was when I walked into this as a child and fell in love with pro wrestling. Like that's feud.
Saw this and then Saturday Night's main event.
We'll have a part 2. So this is really good, but like, we're gonna have a part 2. But it's like, and the main event, Dave was just saying, and they set fucking ratings records that will never be broken. Like 32 million people like watched Hogan and Andre the rematch. The twin referees, like everything led from the moment that Craig talked about in this pick is where the turn.
Lovely, and there's a lot more. Like I said, part 2 is coming. For audio fans, give us a listen to Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. And on social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast, or not? Just doesn't care.
Fuck,
it's fine.
But,
yeah, sorry. For Jess, Craig, and myself, this is the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one.